Between client meetings, managing your business, and everyday tasks, who has time to worry about website hosting? With Kinsta's managed WordPress hosting, you don't have to. They handle the technical stuff, delivering lightning-fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 365 human-only support. Simply switching to Kinsta could make your site up to 200% faster. Kinsta's custom dashboard makes managing sites easy, with powerful features designed to save you time and effort. Plus, their free expert-led migrations ensure a smooth transition. Ready to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses? Get your first month free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta. Simply better hosting.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Coming up on episode 235 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Jaguar F-Type convertible, the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, the Nissan Sentra, driving on ice, paying over MSRP for new cars, Nissan's new EVs, fake manual transmission for Toyota EVs, the Chevy Silverado and the chief engineer on the Silverado, and all that and more coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is episode 235 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam McGool-Sandwich from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from TrueCar.
And I am Roberto Baldwin from Engadget. I couldn't think of when you paused. That made my brain.
I froze your brain too. It was a mutual brain freeze.
Got to think of a name.
Well, now that you're rolling, yes. Why don't you go ahead and start us off, Robbie?
Oh, okay, cool. So I drove the 2022 Jaguar F-Type convertible rear-wheel drive roadster thingamajiggy. That's its official name, thingamajiggy. I'm going to. It is. It is a fun car. See, I still have this problem in my brain about Jaguar, especially as someone who owns a Jaguar. Is that for decades it was this very almost stodgy brand, like very British, and then I got into this and I expected this very, very beautiful but kind of stodgy, roadster. And no, it was actually really fun. It's for the person who wants to upgrade from the Miata. And look a little bit different, and doesn't quite want a Boxster, doesn't want, they want something, they want a convertible, they want performance, they want fun, but they want to be a little bit different, and that's what the F-Type P450 rear-wheel drive convertible is. It is. When you're battling up against Porsche, that's a tough sell. With the MSRP of $73,000. But I think there are people who, they want something a little different. It's not quite as nice or refined as say a Mercedes. It's not quite as fun on the road as a Porsche, which is again that's such a high bar, really, for anyone. But having said that, it is a lot more fun than I anticipated driving it around. It has a lot more kick than I anticipated. Everything about it was more than I expected, which is always a nice sort of thing when you get into a car, because I'll get into a car. I think a lot of people get into a car with some expectations of what that automaker has been doing, and then when those expectations are sort of exceeded, it's always a fun little surprise. I actually like this car a lot. I know people who, if they had the money, would buy this car over something from Mercedes or Porsche or a Corvette or whatever. Just because it is a Jaguar, just because it is different. It is a really pretty car. It is very pretty. The front end looks extremely aggressive, without looking like it's going to stab you. I think you know where it's like
too many angles. You're like, I'm afraid of my own car.
Yeah, exactly,
Yes.
exactly. The Type R, the old Type R, that's what that was. It was aggressive, but also it was gonna, I think I've written this down somewhere in an article where it would take you into a back alley and cut you for your lunch money. The F-Type is not that. It is a lot more smooth, but it's aggressive. It's fun to drive. It has a 5-liter supercharged V8, 444 horsepower, 428 pound-feet of torque. It has a 5-speed automatic transmission. It has to get the paddle shifters, and it is rear-wheel drive, which is always, if you're getting a roadster or a sports car, rear-wheel drive is always, that's what you want.
It's always the superior architecture.
It is. It's the superior architecture. I'm a huge fan of all-wheel drives because I love Subaru. I love WRXs, which is what I'm driving right now, and I'll talk about next week. And I'll probably gush the entire time, which I don't think is fair because I'm just a big WRX and STI fan. So that
I would gush over that too. It's fair. Gush over it next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it was comfortable inside. It had nice sports seats. They were comfortable. It was fun to drive. It gets a whopping EPA combined 19 miles per gallon. I got about 17.7. And that's because I was driving it like it's a 2-seater roadster. And then would go on, a long drive to go and pick up something or to drive somewhere where I could drive a little quicker than I would on a freeway. But I actually really liked it. The version I had had a interior luxury pack, which was $2,000. That's the most expensive sort of thing, and it had illuminated metal tread plate. The little thing when you get in your car that it lit up, extra leather and some premium cabin lighting, which I'm just like, I don't think you probably need that. But it's.
This is why we have a chip shortage.
Yeah,
because we're putting all this, custom, ambient
Weird.
lighting and illuminated.
It's all because of ambient lighting. All 64 colors of it, depending on the car.
All that stuff is controlled by chips.
That's true. Everything needs a chip. I love the Mercedes interior where you can make the color anything. I always make it look like the Pepper Mill in Las Vegas, which is
what is the Pepper Mill?
The Pepper Mill is this diner in Las Vegas at the end of the strip and it is great because they will give you a giant plate of food like nachos. It's okay. It's nicer than, let's say, Mel's Diner or Denny's. It's
Should I be
class.
Adding this to my list of things I should experience in Las Vegas? Next time a drive program takes me there?
Is this near the Sahara?
It's on the strip. It's near the Mexican.
It's
near the Mexican food place. It's at the very end. The north end of the strip.
Yeah. Okay.
The Pepper Mill. I love the Pepper Mill. Anyway, so the one I drove today, last week was $84,350, which is a lot of money for a car, just in general. But it is.
Yeah, it is.
Just a lot of money. Period.
Yeah, it's just a lot of money.
Period,
but it is a Jaguar, so JLR. It's going to be expensive anyway. Again, if you're someone who likes the idea of Miata, but you want to be fancy and you want to be different, this is probably the car you're looking for. There are other cars that have a little bit more power in this price range. There are other cars that have probably a little bit nicer interior in this range, but you're going to look like everyone
Porsches
else.
are a dime a dozen.
Yeah, Porsches are a dime a dozen.
You don't see F-Types everywhere.
You don't see F-Types everywhere. That's true.
The F-Type is just a sexy little car.
It is. Mm-hmm. It's so pretty. I don't see a lot of X-Types. I got the X version of that, which is like X, like don't do it. But the F-Type X, don't do it. F-Type, fantastic little roadster, rear-wheel drive, put the top down. I don't know, midlife crisis mobile.
Midlife crisis mobile.
I think about midlife crises a lot because I'm like, oh wait, I'm old. I should be having a midlife crisis, and I realize everything I'm doing now, I was doing in like my late 20s, early 30s. I'm like, well,
nothing's changed.
I've been having a midlife crisis since I was a teenager.
Aww.
There you go.
All right,
midlife.
Nicole.
Yeah.
What about you?
I have the same car I had kind of when I spoke to you last week. I had two, and I had a Nissan Sentra that I thought I was only having for a hot minute. And they're like, no. You actually have this for a whole week. So lo and behold, still have the Nissan Sentra parked in my driveway. So I talked about it before.
Have its charms worn off on you yet?
Its charms have not worn. It's still a charming little car. I still think it's a little bit loud. Like on highway driving, there's a good bit of road noise and wind noise. It's not a quiet sedan. But
how's the stereo? Is the stereo good?
The stereo, it does have a good stereo. Where did that come from?
Just turn that volume up a little.
In fact, it's on my handy dandy list of things I wanted to mention. This one has an upgraded stereo. It has a Bose stereo system. I forgot how many speakers. I wrote it down. 8-speaker Bose premium audio system. It's actually really good audio. It really is nice. So I like the audio system. So yeah, you just turn that up and you don't notice the fact that there's wind and noise all around you outside. And it's not so noisy that like you can't carry on a conversation with whoever's next to you in the back seat. It's not like driving, something like a Bronco or a Wrangler, which truly like the noise. But it is. I mean, but you do notice it if you're looking for a super quiet highway cruiser. This is not the car, but it is very comfortable. It gets good fuel economy. So it's rated for 28 city, 37 highway, for 32 combined. I was on the money at 37 exactly, which was mostly highway driving, but I did have some city driving in there. And some of my driving was during really terrible road conditions where there was, it's slushy and icy and it's not the best kind of stuff. Right at 37. So I was kind of impressed. So if you want to, I'm like, okay, that bodes pretty well for what you're going to get overall. So I thought that was pretty good. And this one has a CVT that's relatively quiet. It's not too annoying. It's not going to drive you nuts. You're not going to hear droning. I like that because you have enough wind and road noise happening. What else did I say here? I thought couple big things. So there's the center console where you flip it open. Sometimes those are super shallow and you can't even get, like, if you want to toss your phone in there or you want to toss something in, there is no room for anything.
You got to put it sideways and then it doesn't close all the way. Like, wow.
Yeah, it's like you can't get it closed all the way. So, and I now, because it's COVID time, I have a little thing that I take with me, and it has my Easy Pass, my garage door opener, and like 5 different masks in there. So if I'm someplace that requires masks and I have people that don't have them, I always have some masks. So it's my little pouch. Yeah,
like
I'm all sorts of
the mask mom.
Right? So I had, and it fits in there entirely. And I can put my phone in there, and I can put my wallet in there, and I can shut the whole thing. I thought that was kind of good because then if you want to leave stuff in there, you don't feel like it's just sitting out like on top of it. But if you do want your phone to be like more, or something to be an easy access, it does have a nice little bit of storage like in front of that center console. Like there's 2 cup holders and there's a spot you can easily like set a large, good sized phone in there. So I appreciated the little bit of extra storagey bits that they put in the front. I thought that was pretty good. I also liked, and I think this was probably part of the package, there's an SR premium package, and I'm thinking this is it, but they have, it says Prima Tex appointed seat trim. So it has fancy seat trims, but there's like a little sort of like stripe detail that goes along the back of the seat, like vertically, it's in the center of the seat. And it gives a little visual pop. Like I like it when there's some little accent when you open a car. I mean, leather seats are cool, whatever. But when there's something like there's a little bit of colored trim, little something. Yeah.
That's part of the SR trim level, right?
I'm on the SR trim and I'm looking, there's it says the SR premium package. And on here it says Prima Tex appointed seat trims. It doesn't talk specifically about this fancy little stripe, but I'm betting it's a part of that. And it does make a big difference. It actually adds a little like visual, like pop. It looks nice. Total cost on this one, it's $27,200. The way that it came equipped to me. I mean, it feels like a $27,000 car. I don't think it's overpriced, underpriced. It's like sort of like, yep, that feels just about right for this. Like right where it belongs. You just cruise right in there. You're just a couple thousand under 30. So I like this. I think Nissan makes a decent car. I mean, their trims they never get too fancy. They're never so basic that they feel like you're driving like a rental special. And I feel like they're nice middle of the road.
Even if you are in fact driving a rental special.
Even if you are in fact driving a rental special, which on occasion I have had a Nissan rental special. But even then though, when they never feel like horrifically plastic fantastic inside. I think they do a good job of avoiding that, even when the trims aren't premium trims on the lower price trim, models and trim levels. So, so that was my thoughts on ye olde Nissan Sentra that I've now had for longer than I thought I would. The only other thing I noted on here that has really cool black alloy wheels. The wheels are nifty, but now they are kind of white alloy wheels because salt and February in New Hampshire.
Man, I don't know how you people drive cars into salt like that. I have a quick question about the Sentra. So I am a big fan of the Nissan Kicks. That is my favorite. That is my favorite Nissan. How would you rate it up against the Kicks?
It's more responsive than the Kicks. The Kicks is, it's super fun. I love the Kicks. It's really cute. I like it, but it's not. This is a little bit more oomph to it. It is a little smoother, the ride. I don't know that it's quieter. I feel like the Kicks isn't
Kicks is the college student, and the Sentra is like your first job.
You graduated and you actually got a job that's in your degree.
You got a job, yeah, and you're starting out as that,
Yes. No, I think it's in
whatever
line
other
with the
people do
Kicks.
in life, associate editor.
It's right. But it's a little nicer than that. It's a little comfier than that. It's got a little smoother than ride. I like the Kicks. I think it's a great college kid car. I think it's but I feel like this is like you graduated college and you got your job and now you're going to go for the Sentra.
You feel embarrassed telling your boss, what car is it? Oh, mine's the Kicks. They're like, the what?
They're like, what? Is that really a car or is that a bicycle? No, it's a car. It's called the Kicks.
And then the boss says, in my day, that's what we called shoes. And then it was,
Well, my daughter drives a Rogue Sport, so that's her college kid car. She got a fancy. Well, because you know what was it I was looking for? There was something that she had to have automatic emergency braking, and I wanted all-wheel drive. I think the Kicks is not all-wheel drive.
The Kicks is front drive only.
I believe that's where we lost the Kicks, because my first thought was Kicks, and then I thought, wait, because she's in Milwaukee, in the city, you need all-wheel drive for the snow that they don't plow when they have it. So, Otherwise, Kicks was going to be the first choice.
Yeah, and the Kicks, shares its platform. Actually, the Sentra, the Versa, and the Kicks all share the same basic platform. But the Kicks and the Versa both have smaller. I think it's 1.6 liter 4-cylinder, whereas the Sentra is a 2 liter. So it's got a little more power.
Got a little more oomph.
Yeah. All right. And for those that are on a budget, I'm just looking at the Nissan website. You can actually get the Sentra starting at just over $20,000 for the base S model, and even with that, you get a touchscreen radio with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay support. It has the same engine that's in the SR. It just doesn't have all the other nice
fancy
features
bits
that are on there. So
you don't need the fancy bits. You can plug your phone in. You got you got a pretty good engine. You got a little bit of road noise, but you know what? Just turn it up. Turn up stereo.
Turn up that fancy stereo, and then you don't have to deal with it.
Or get some noise canceling earbuds. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, don't do that.
Not supposed to drive that way. I remember trying to drive with, you couldn't wear headphones back in the day. You probably still can, right? But I used to hang them over the rearview mirror and just turn things up really loud so I could hear what I wanted to hear back before when I had no stereo at all in my car in college. That was my solution, and blast it through the little headphone. I'm like, I'm not wearing them. I'm not breaking a rule,
They're just very, very small speaker drivers.
But it was better than nothing. Or AM radio. I mean, really.
You're definitely better off hanging your headphones over your.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I have the Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross, which when this thing came out a couple of years ago, a lot of people were a little bit upset about the name because Eclipse.
It's not an Eclipse.
No, and going back 30 plus years, ago when I graduated from college, the Eclipse was new back then, and it was, this pretty cool little sport coupe that Mitsubishi developed in partnership with what was then known as Chrysler. And there was the Eclipse, there was the Eagle Talon, and the Chrysler Laser versions of it. They were all the same car, and it was, it was a pretty cool car, and it was one of the ones that I had on my short list of what to buy after I graduated. Along with the 5-liter LX Mustang and the Miata. But I actually did get to spend a lot of time with the Eclipse back in those days, because when I went to work after graduation, I was working at GM, working on ABS for the Lotus Elan at GM's Milford Proving Grounds, and we had an Eclipse that we were using as our competitive benchmark for the ABS system against that, because it was similar in performance to the Lotus. And so I spent quite a bit of time driving that Eclipse, and it was a lot of fun. This one, so it's a compact crossover.
This one
it's called an Eclipse. It's actually it's not a bad car. It's a good basic small crossover. I don't know that it should be called an Eclipse, but that's marketing. But it's a decent little compact crossover. The one I have is the top of the line SEL. They all come for 2022. They got a slight design refresh, new front fascia. They all come standard with a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, which by the standards of what's available out there in 1.5 liter turbos, it's a little on the low side. We have a 1.5 liter turbo in our Civic that is 174 horsepower. This one's 154 horsepower, but it's not bad. It's got decent torque, 180 some foot-pounds of torque, and it's only available with a CVT, as is unfortunately increasingly becoming the case, in the lower ends of the market. It's a decent looking design. It's like I said, it's compact. It's got a more not quite coupe-like profile to it, but it's got that forward slanting rear glass. So it's not quite like what you would get, say a Tesla Model Y or BMW X4 kind of shape to it, but kind of leaning in that direction. And especially in the blue color that's on the one that I'm driving, I really like the blue, this bright blue. Definitely we need more vibrant colors, more bold colors on cars. The Eclipse Cross.
Orange. I want them all to be orange. I like that orangey thing that's happening right
I
now.
want them all to be orange, but I want a lot more orange cars.
I like that.
But I want a variety of colors. I want a rainbow of colors.
A rainbow, Skittles, all the cars.
Yeah. We want reds and yellows and oranges and greens, just bold colors. No more gray and silver and white and black. No more monochromatic cars.
No, they're boring. Bleh.
And that may turn, something we'll talk about later, may help to push that trend forward. But right now, the Eclipse starts at $23,700. The one I'm driving, the SEL model, came out to $34,075, including the $1,200 destination charge. This one, as I said, is pretty loaded. It's got the panoramic glass moonroof. It's lightning blue metallic is the color. It's got a full suite of ADAS, adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, blind spot monitors, all that good stuff. It has multiple modes for this one's all-wheel drive. So there's a snow mode, which came in handy over the last couple of days to give you a little more traction when you're trying to get through residential streets that haven't been plowed yet. To get your snowblower to the shop to get it fixed after it died on you partway through clearing your driveway.
Oh, awesome.
But I got the snowblower fixed for about $50 instead of paying $400 or $500 or more for like the one or two snowblowers that were left at Lowe's in stock. So I should be good for another 15 years now.
$50, 15. That's value.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using this snowblower for like 15 or 17 years, something like that. Anyway, enough of that divergence. You got LED headlamps, fog lights on this thing. It drives pretty decent. It's got decent ride quality. It's not going to, thrill you like the F-Type will in terms of its acceleration performance, but it's adequate.
I'm shocked by that, Sam.
Not
utterly
as fun
shocked.
as the F-Type. That's their tagline.
And the CVT control is not as nice as what Nissan does with their CVT control. It definitely feels more like a CVT. You get more of that motorboating effect, especially if you're trying to accelerate hard and use all 154 of those horsepowers. But if you're driving it more sedately, it's fine. It's adequate. It's well put together. Decent materials inside. It doesn't feel cheap. So I think it's Mitsubishi is making progress. They're getting to be more and more competitive all the time. And when they finally get around to replacing the Mirage with something that's a little more up to date, then I think they'll, they may even survive. They may even thrive in the marketplace. We'll see. But for now, the Eclipse Cross SEL. One thing that is a little disappointing in this one, it's rated at 25 miles per gallon city, 26 highway, 25 combined. I've only been getting a little less than 19 with it, which is for a small crossover is not great. But this is it's also been a very cold week. Temperatures often in the low teens or less the past week, and trudging through the snow. So that is going to degrade your fuel economy. But even that 25 combined for a vehicle this size is not that inspiring. I'd like to see something closer to 30 at least for a car this size. But aside from that, the rest of it's a very nice compact crossover that you can get at a pretty reasonable starting price.
What if Mitsubishi were to come out to like sort of really jump into the market? What Halo car do you think they should bring back? The Lancer or the Eclipse?
They can bring back the Eclipse now because they brought it back with the wrong. The Eclipse Cross will really confuse people. Super confused.
I would like to see them bring back an electric Lancer, Lancer Evo.
Yeah, see that would be
okay.
Fun. It's right there, EV. Oh, and they could have EV and then a little O.
Yeah, just do some weird capitalization of the letters. Perfect.
Yeah, so there you go, Mitsubishi. You can send your check to Wheel Bearing, care of Roberto Baldwin's.
An electric Lancer Evo, I think would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty dope.
But
that would be pretty neat.
Yeah, so that's the 2022 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings.
Between client meetings, managing your business, and everyday tasks, who has time to worry about website hosting? With Kinsta's managed WordPress hosting, you don't have to. They handle the technical stuff, delivering lightning-fast load times, enterprise-grade security, and 24/7 365 human-only support. Simply switching to Kinsta could make your site up to 200% faster. Kinsta's custom dashboard makes managing sites easy, with powerful features designed to save you time and effort. Plus, their free expert-led migrations ensure a smooth transition. Ready to see why Kinsta is trusted by thousands of businesses? Get your first month free at kinsta.com. That's KINSTA.com. Kinsta, simply better hosting.
All right, let's get into some of the other items for this week. Something that you remembered last week, Robbie, while we were recording, and I made a note of, ice driving. You got to do some ice driving recently.
I did. I jumped into a plane. I flew to Steamboat Springs, Colorado. I jumped out of the plane, and then I jumped into an
Wait, did you jump out of the plane
deep enough to
before
cushion
you
your fall?
Yeah, did you jump out of the plane when it was in the sky, or did you just like
You
jump
know what?
out?
It went while it's landing. If you jump out, as long as you roll,
It's
you're
good.
Just
Okay.
roll, hit
Noted.
the ground and roll, hit the ground and roll. That's all you really need to do when you're jumping out of a plane.
So the next time the flight attendant tells me to get away from that door, I said it's all right. I'm gonna roll.
Like,
when
it's
I jump.
fine. I'm gonna roll. We're all good.
And then the flight attendant will be like, all right, cool.
She'll be like, fine, have at it, dude.
Yeah, you know what you're doing. You know what's up. You know what time it is. Go for it. Knock yourself out. See you at the Wetzel's Pretzels. So I went to, and there were some Acuras there, and we were driving on Bridgestone tires, and I don't live where it snows. I live in Northern California, by the ocean, by the bay. It doesn't snow here, but I do on occasion go up to Tahoe to go snowboarding. And for years, when I was a very hardcore snowboarder, I had all seasons on my WRX, and it was fine. I went out to Steamboat Springs, and apparently in the last 10 years or so, all seasons have gotten way better because I drove an NSX on all seasons. An NSX, the Acura supercar, with all seasons on 4 inches of ice, and it did really well. I mean, and they weren't winter tires, which I also got to try, but they are very, very nice. So yeah,
hold on, just before you go on, with 4 inches of ice, I'm assuming that there was solid ground underneath that ice, not just a frozen lake, right?
Yeah, there's some ground somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it wasn't on a lake. No, because their course has inclines, so they had us braking like on a downhill, and then they had a skid pad, but the skid pad was at like an angle, like probably about 12-degree angle. So as you're coming down the bottom, you're like also not just sliding because you're sliding there. You're also sliding because now you're working against gravity and just sliding off into the. So they had us drive around the NSX, rolling on all seasons, and it did really well considering like what we were trying to make the vehicle do. I did hit a cone. I did at one point. I know. I braked too late, and this is my own fault because what happens is when someone's telling me how to do something, I think too much about how to do it. But if I just do it, then it works. Back to the snowboarding thing. If I think about snowboarding while I'm snowboarding, I fall down. But if I snowboard, it's fine.
Sorry.
Like
is that the equivalent of like when you're walking up the stairs, and if you think about walking up the stairs, you'll like stumble?
You'll hit the little like edge of the stair.
You're like, oh god, I shouldn't have paid attention. I should just kept letting my just go.
Yeah, that's how my brain works. So originally, I braked. I hit the brakes too late. I turned too much, and I went plunk. But if it had been on like some old all seasons or just regular tires, I would just slid into the embankment. So yeah, no, you can. And then they had us do they did a hot lap with us with the driver, with the NSX, just flying around the corners and getting sideways, and because everyone loves a good hot lap. If you don't know what a hot lap is when a professional driver just goes crazy while you're in the passenger seat of a car on a track, and you get to just hold on for dear life and giggle the whole time or scream, whatever, however.
Giggle. I like to giggle. I giggle like an idiot. I try to be like I'm going to be all cool, and then I'm just giggling like I'm 12. I can't.
You're just like, yay! For the EV tires, they had us on the Acura MDX, their little midsize crossover, and they let us drive it with all seasons and with their Blizzak winter tires. I love the name Blizzak, by the way. It's not new. It's been around since the 90s, but it's the greatest name ever given to any tire ever. Blizzak.
I have Blizzaks because I love them. They're amazing. I like them.
It was incredibly impressive how nice those winter tires were. And when with the difference between winter tires and let's say summer tires, you get in the car and you have to warm them up to get them to not be as hard. Well, if you have this hard compound and you try to do that, hard compound on ice is just like a recipe for disaster. Don't ever drive with summer tires in the snow the ice because you'll have a bad time. Well, you probably won't go anywhere. You just slide into the ditch next to your driveway, and that'll be the end of it.
I had they gave me a press car with summer tires once in the winter. It was snowing, and I didn't know it. So I get in and drive it. I'm just in my little neighborhood, and I turn the wheel, and the car just keeps going straight. I'm like, what? What's happening? And it literally just not like I had done nothing. Just So don't do that on purpose, people.
Yeah, first time I ever had a Mini for a review. It was at John Cooper Works, and it was delivered to me the first week of December on summer tires. And a couple days into the loan, we had a bunch of snow, and I could not get up the hill in my neighborhood. I got halfway up the hill, and the car kept slowing down, and finally halfway up, it came to a stop and would not go any further. And so I had to back down and go around a different way.
So that's what summer tires are. So they're a very hard compound when they're cold. They sort of they loosen up when they get warm, and then they add grip onto asphalt. Winter tires kind of have to do the opposite. They have to be. They can't be hard when it's cold. They still have to stay very
squishy
loosey and squishy. There's a good word.
How's that?
Loosey, squishy. Pliable. There we go. That's a real
squishy better. They're
squishy's a good word, but pliable is probably something that an engineer would come up
be an engineer, Sam. Whatever.
And then they have the tread, which they call snipes, which is a fun word. But when you have that nice pliable rubber, it makes all the difference in the world. And they have this. And I learned that that ice is the roads are the slickest around the temperature of freezing, around 32 degrees, a little bit above and a little bit below, because there's also water on the ice, which creates a slicker experience.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you might think, well, it's only 32. It's not going to be as bad as if it were -10. Nope. That's the opposite. It's actually worse because you have the water sliding on top of the ice. It's like when you drop a piece of ice on the ground, and at first it'll kind of slide, but then as it melts, it just slicks. Every time you try to move it, it just slides everywhere. It's that. So my whole thing was when I went there was I kind of wanted to talk about them with EVs and tires, because EVs typically ship with these high efficiency, low rolling resistance tires. If you live somewhere where it's insanely cold, if you live in Canada, the northern part of
New Hampshire,
California, New Hampshire, you might want to swap out those tires. You're going to lose some range, but you're going to have all this extra safety, which is a good deal. And winter tires have gotten so much better. And I talked to them; they're so much better over the last 10, 15 years. All seasons the same thing. I did talk to them, and this is an argument I have with people all the time, because everyone's like, well, if you have all-wheel drive, it's fine. I'm like, well, not really. Because all-wheel drive is great for acceleration. But it's not going to help you turn. And
or stop.
I was talking, or stop,
Yeah.
and so turn or stop. And I was talking to them. We're like, yeah, we had a thing where I forget the vehicle, but they, I think it was ambulances, and they were bringing them out, and they had front-wheel drive and all-wheel drives, and they put the winter tires on them, and the front-wheel drives actually did better than the all-wheel drives. So, if you have good tires, always it's really down to having the proper tires for the environment over all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And I am I love all-wheel drive vehicles, again, WRX. But at the same time, I understand that if I had a front-wheel, my Kona, if I put some winter tires on my Kona, I'd be doing great.
Well, my daughter bought a Toyota 86 last year, and I convinced her to get a set of winter tires for it. She previously had spent the last dozen years driving a Honda Fit on all-season tires. And the first time she tried the winter tires, she actually got a set of Blizzaks she got a second set of wheels and a set of Blizzaks, and we put them on for her. And she said, after driving the rear-wheel drive 86 in the snow on the Blizzaks compared to driving the Honda Fit on all-season tires, it was like night and day. It was so much more confidence-inspiring.
Yeah,
and my daughter had just all seasons on her car when she first started driving, and because I just hadn't put winters on there, and I bought Blizzaks for her to put on it, and I think she drove the first winter season with all seasons, and then we put the winter tires on. She's like, "Why? What were you doing to me last year? Why did you not give me these earlier? You're a terrible mother." I'm like, "I did get them for you eventually, so cool your jets." But she noticed it as new. Oh my gosh. And then my younger daughter has never driven with anything but the Blizzaks. And my older one's always like, you have no idea. You have no idea what put me through. I'm like, calm down.
You don't know the horrors of my life.
Yeah, you don't know the horrors of all season tires compared to these.
Yeah. I grew up driving all seasons. I've driven all seasons because I live in, again, California. Even when I lived in the snow as a kid, it didn't snow enough for winter tires. But if you are somewhere where it's just, hey, it's snowing, that's what you got for the next few months. Yeah, you should definitely invest in some winter tires.
And as my daughter did, and what I've done in the past as well, if you live somewhere where you get a significant winter weather, a good thing, if you can swing it, a good option is to just buy a second set of wheels with the winter and have the winter tires mounted on those, and then sometime around Thanksgiving or so, or depending where you live, might be earlier or later, just swap all four wheels, leave your summer tires mounted on the wheels, stick them in a corner in the garage or in your basement or wherever. And most tire stores will also actually offer you storage for your tires when you swap them out. And then in the spring, March, April, whenever the snow and the salt melt, then just put the summer tires back on, and it's so much less hassle than having the tires dismounted from the wheels. Less risk of damaging the tires and the wheels. It's going to cost you a little more, but it'll last a lot longer.
Yeah, no, I think get some Steelies. Yeah, throw some Steelies on there, because I've had this happen where you're driving and you start to slide, and all of a sudden you hit something that you didn't see because it was underneath snow, and now you're scratched up your rim. You scratched up your wheel. Throw some Steelies on there, so that way when that happens, you're like, oh, well, that sucked.
Yeah, I mean, so if you got an extra set of low cost alloy wheels, and another good thing to consider is go -1 on when you get your winter tires. So one size down on your wheels. So she went from 17-inch wheels to 16s, and also go a little bit narrower and adjust. You get a little higher, taller profile aspect ratio, so you have a little more compliance if you hit potholes and things like that. And then also, because the tires are narrower, you get a little more pressure on them, because you got the same weight of the car on a narrower contact patch, so you're going to get a little more pressure, a little more bite into the snow and ice. So again, that helps your traction a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably the one thing I miss most about my engineering days was doing winter development. Working on things like anti-lock brakes, traction control, stability control. We did the opposite of what you would expect. When it's wintertime, we would go places where it was even colder, and then in summertime we go places where it's even hotter to get the extremes. And so I spent a bunch of winters up in northern Minnesota and northern Michigan and northern Sweden, blasting around on snow and ice and frozen lakes. That's why I asked you earlier about the 4 inches of ice you mentioned. Up in Minnesota and in Sweden, we did our testing on frozen lakes where the ice was about 2.5 feet thick.
Wow!
And so, but it was weird being out on the ice on the frozen lake. If you just stood out there when there was nothing else around, sometimes you could hear it cracking and shifting under your feet.
Oh, I did an ice drive in Colorado, and they had us all out there. It was the same thing. There were certain spots, like if you stood there, you could kind of feel things moving. I'm like, I'm gonna die now for this drive program. I'm gonna die. This is it right now. But it's like you said, though, it's like feet of ice, but it's not completely inflexible. It's a little scary. It's cool, but scary.
Yeah. All right. Next up, let's see. Let's stick with EVs for a bit. Nissan announced this week at their plant in Canton, Mississippi, that they are going to be spending $500 million to retool to build a pair of new EVs, one for the Nissan brand, one for the Infiniti brand. And no surprise there. I mean, everybody else is retooling plants to build EVs, but they had teaser videos for each of these. And what struck me about both of the teaser videos is the profiles of the cars. They were both sedans, and you were driving the Sentra. Nicole. And Nissan is, unlike, Ford and GM and many other brands, has not completely given up on sedans. They're still building a bunch of different sedans.
Yeah.
But apparently they're going to build 2 electric sedans in Canton, Mississippi in 2025.
Well, if you think about it, though, like what we have Tesla. What do we have for sedans? Just normal sedan, like the Ioniq
Porsche
5
Taycan?
and the EV6, but no, not something that normal people can
Normal
afford.
people, not like the EQS,
Right?
or the Lucid Air.
Right,
Yeah.
like sedan wise, when you there really aren't. That's not a.
There's nothing.
They're crossovers. There's nothing unless there just aren't options. So if you're
And
thinking,
technically
okay,
only the Model 3 is a sedan,
right,
because the Model S is a hatchback.
yeah. So you have a limited number of options, and unless you think sedans are just completely kaput, no one's going to buy them ever again, ever. It's not a bad call to create a couple of EVs, and there's still a huge, despite the fact that crossovers and SUVs are everywhere, there's still a huge number of sedans on the roads. I mean, they aren't selling like they did once upon a time, but it's not like they're this like dud that no one's buying. They still sell a lot of them.
Yeah, and Hyundai is actually going to be launching an electric sedan later this year, the Ioniq 6. It's roughly a Sonata-sized sedan that we've seen spy photos of it, and that's coming out later this year. So we will be getting mainstream electric sedans. They're coming, and at least one from Nissan and one from Infiniti coming mid-decade. The other thing about this that I noticed reading over the press release and watching the announcement, Canton, Mississippi currently builds Altimas, Frontiers, and the Titan, and they were building the NV vans, the full-size Nissan vans, the NV 1500, 2500, and 3500. It looks like, near as I can tell, I haven't been able to get back with Nissan yet, I think the NVs might actually be out of production now because they never really caught on that well. I think they may have ended those with the 2021 models. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Titan is what gets replaced in Canton when they start building these EVs. Because,
I know the Titan is just kind of, it's such an also-ran at this point.
Yeah, I looked up the sales numbers. They only sold 27,000 Titans last year.
Wow.
Which is
and how many F-150s were sold last year?
Ford typically sells somewhere between 60 and 70,000 F-Series pickups every month.
Oh, geez, Louise.
So
they sold more in 2 weeks than Nissan did of the Titan in a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
okay then.
That's and I think that's probably what happened with their NV too. Is the Ford Transit. That's a juggernaut.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, you want the Nissan NV? They're like, nah, just gotta keep doing it.
Well, between the Transit, the Sprinter, and the Ram ProMaster, I mean, those
are three.
They really dominate the full-size van market today.
Yeah.
All right. Again, sticking with the EV theme for another couple of minutes. Some patents were published this week by Toyota for a simulated manual transmission for EVs.
This is weird.
Yeah.
I just go on and say, because it's not as though it's not as though there are vast numbers of people who drive manual transmissions, and I love them, and they're fine, but are like, well, I'm not going to buy an EV. There's no manual. Forget it. I'm out. I don't know about this. Don't know about this, Sam.
So for those that haven't read this or seen this, there was a series, I think, of 8 different patents that involve having a manual H-pattern style shifter, a pseudo clutch pedal, and a control system to manage the torque output of the electric motor, so that it's like driving a video game.
That's perfect.
If you've got one of those Thrustmaster wheels and shifter and pedal setups at home for playing Gran Turismo or Forza, you shift this thing. The shifter's not actually mechanically connected to anything. It's connected to a bunch of sensors, and the clutch pedal.
Is it gonna make it feel like that sensation of like you've shifting gears?
Yes, because you'll have a different torque level for each as after you shift.
Between each shift, you'll feel the torque drop off. And I guess the big question is, will they program in the ability to stall the electric motor?
Yeah.
Oh.
If you're not paying attention, can you stall it?
Will you hit a rev limiter? Will it be off?
Slip the clutch a little bit. Trying to
how realistic is this? Can you mess it up? Basically, is what we're asking. Because if you can't mess it up, then it is not realistic.
Since it's all electronics, you could theoretically do anything you want with it. And there's no reason you couldn't do that. I'm not sure why you would want to.
Because then it's not real. Where did it say? I'm trying to figure out the phrasing in this story. It says it's supposed to be, what does it say? Like of comfort to people who prefer manual. It should be of comfort. Well, then it should, comforting to drivers accustomed to manual boxes. Comforting? Well, then I need to have all the risk associated with that comforter. It's not really comforting.
I demand.
I want the risk and the reward, or I don't want this.
I agree. I don't know. This just
it is just a patent. I mean, to be fair, it's not like they just announced this is coming. It's just we could do this if we wanted to. We should probably patent it. All right, you have no idea if this will ever actually end up in a vehicle.
On the other hand, it's not inexpensive to file patents.
No, but I feel like
this is a series of 8 patents.
But I feel like automakers file a lot of patents just to make sure that some little random piece of this giant schematics that they have wasn't something they could say, no, we have that first. Like if there's a part in there they think might apply to something else, I
wonder if they're looking at Porsche because it has the 2-speed gearbox for the Taycan.
Maybe.
I wonder if they're looking at like the Volkswagen group and being like, oh, we should get ahead of that.
Just
because
to make
if they
sure.
come out with a 5,
Except there's no indication here that they're going to have a multi-speed gearbox.
They're like, well, if Porsche comes out with it, we want to say, well, we got an EV that has it's a manual. They're like, and Toyota can be like, hold on, there, Mr. Volkswagen.
Now what if Ferrari licenses this from Toyota and they bring back the classic stainless steel gated shift gate, like you had back in the old days before.
I mean, you could. I mean, okay. So, one world where an EV does sort of pair up with a manual transmission is the resto mod world.
True.
Because it's easier to just connect an electric motor to your transmission than to try to create all this an automatic system and connecting it to all the transaxles and drive shafts and whatever. You just hook it up to your transmission that's in your old car and you'll be fine. And most everyone takes off in second gear because of all the torque. So there are cars out there that have manual transmissions that are EVs, but they're sort of they're Frankenstein cars, which is
well,
I want to build one of these Frankenstein cars. So I'm not saying these are as a bad thing. I'm one of my goals, hopefully in the next 5 years, is to build a resto mod EV. I guess you could
turn the X-Type into a resto mod.
There you go.
No. The F-Type is not. No.
That's not my plan.
No, that's you now. The X-Type is. I think I want to safari it out. I want to lift it up and throw it because it's all-wheel drive, ish. It's got the 3-liter V6. Lift it up a little bit. It's got it's the dog car. I think it'll be a fun that'll be a fun project. But you could put a manual transmission in an EV, and it could be fun. It'd be cool. It'd be cool. Miata.
Yeah. Well, there are some companies that are doing EV conversions for Miatas, and back about 2008 or so, I was out working in my yard one day, and this guy pulls into my driveway. I was mowing the lawn. Pulls into the driveway in this old beige Saturn coupe, first generation Saturn coupe, and gets out of the car and asks me if I write about cars because he drove by all the time and he saw all the different cars in the driveway. I said, yeah. I said, well, you want to check out my car here? And he had done his own home EV conversion on this first-gen Saturn coupe.
On a Saturn?
On a Saturn.
Wow.
And, it was under the hood and in the trunk and everything was filled with lead-acid batteries that he had wired up. And it was, the electric motor in the front was connected to the 5-speed manual transmission, the original Saturn 5-speed. And, we took it for a drive. I test drove it. was actually not bad. I mean, he said it had a range of about 40 miles. I'll find the link and put it in the show notes. There's some photos with it. But yeah, I mean, you can do stuff like that. But again, I mean, those cars have actual transmissions in them.
Yeah.
And when you have that shifter there, you are actually moving the gears around.
You're doing things that are necessary. Yeah.
What Toyota's talking about here is just, pretending.
It's a trick.
A pseudo shifter. I mean, they literally use the phrase pseudo shifter and pseudo clutch.
Oh.
So there is not actually a clutch in there. There is not actually.
So can you envision someone thinking that they actually have figured out how to drive a manual transmission with this thing and then getting in a real one? Like, they're done. Like, wait, this isn't like my fake one.
If you program it right, you could actually do that. If you program it to have that.
But you have to, also, you have to program it to fail, like to fail the way a regular one was. I didn't shift right. I didn't time it right. If you don't program it that way, then no one's really going to, you'd think you're learning, but you're not.
You have to program failure into the
You have to program failure into this. Yeah. You don't do it right, your car stalls.
Boo,
yeah.
Boo. Like an impatient dad.
Who's holding on with white knuckles onto the
white knuckling in. Shift now.
Okay, one more EV thing here, which is about the Silverado EV. When we were in Chicago, I had a chance to sit down with Nicole Kraatz, and after this segment, I'll drop in the interview I did with Nicole. Nicole is the chief engineer on the 2024 Chevy Silverado EV, and I asked her some questions about this, particularly getting back to the whole weight question, some of the design decisions they made. And I'll let you listen to the interview. It's about 15, 18 minutes, I think. And she talks about some of the design decisions. One of the big things that came out of that, because they didn't use the existing Silverado frame, and they didn't have to rely on having the same hard points for mounting the cab on it. That's part of what allowed them to do the unibody design, the avalanche style architecture. But it also allowed them to move the frame rails further out. Because if you look under most trucks, you'll find that the frame rails are actually usually mounted about 8 to 10 inches inboard from the edge of the truck. They're not out at the perimeter of the truck. And so they did this for the Hummer, and they're doing it for the Silverado and Sierra. The frame rails are moved all the way out, which allowed them to pack more cells in there, and have with the 2-layer battery system. And then earlier this week came out the documentation that GM submitted to EPA for the Hummer EV, because the Hummer EV is not a light duty truck, because it weighs has a curb weight of 9,000 pounds.
Nothing. The word light should not be associated.
In no way applies.
It does not have to have any range numbers or MPGE numbers on the Monroney label on the window sticker, as light duty vehicles do. And one of they had some actual specs but they still had to submit the documentation to EPA for it. So this thing has the energy efficiency of this thing is rated at 47 MPGE. That's miles per gallon equivalent, which is really, really, really bad. This is like far and away the worst energy efficiency of any EV on the market.
But to be fair, that is the Hummer brand. It's never
true.
been.
That is very true.
Yeah, it's in line, right? It's in keeping with what it has been in the past.
But even the battery itself, so we finally have actual specs on the battery. The battery pack in the Hummer EV weighs 2,923 pounds.
God.
That's more than the Honda Civic that's sitting in my garage.
It's a whole Civic of batteries.
It's a whole Civic's worth of batteries.
Just a Civic.
And it has a gross capacity of 247 kilowatt hours and net of like 212 kilowatt hours.
240. Okay. Wait. 247. And then that's the gross?
That's the gross. And then 212, I think, was the net. 212 and a half,
Oh
roughly.
my gosh.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just, 212.7 kilowatt hours is the net
Wow.
usable battery capacity. So it has a range of 329 miles, which is a bit less than the 350 that GM had been promising for this thing.
329.
Even the Rivian
close.
R1T, which up until now was one of the least efficient battery EVs, is rated at 70 mpge. This thing is only 47, which is it's really, really bad.
Really
so,
bad.
Assume Chevrolet hasn't specifically said exactly what the battery capacity is going to be on the Silverado, but they did say it's going to have the 2-layer battery pack that's in the Silverado. So basically 2 battery packs stacked on top of each other, and it's presumably going to be the same battery pack in order to get the 400-mile range. By comparison, the F-150 Lightning, the extended range version of that, has a 131 kilowatt hour battery pack that weighs, I believe it's 1,600 pounds. So just over half of the pack weight of the Hummer.
So I did some quick math with the net versus the range, and it's the miles per kilowatt hour is 1.5.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So it's,
Wow.
it is completely in line with the Hummer brand.
Yep. Except no emissions.
Just have no emissions. Yeah, you don't have to get it smogged.
Yeah. No direct
So
emissions.
there's that one departure from what it was.
Yeah, you don't have to get it smogged. I mean, it's still going to be if you charge it at. Oh my God, that's going to take. Okay, so you have to get a level 2 charger.
Oh yeah, I would have.
Because 212,
Yeah.
geez. And you have to make sure that you set it up to charge at night, so you get the cheaper kilowatt hour rate. But it'll still be cheaper than, especially in California, where the gas is like $5.
It's still going to be cheaper than gas.
$15,000.
Yeah, it's still going to be cheaper than gas.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, if you made a modern Hummer, that thing's probably going to get about 10 miles per gallon anyway.
Yeah.
So.
At best.
Yeah.
Amazing. Just sticking with that brand. Just go.
But like I
Wow.
said, I mean, the problem is, the Silverado is based on most of the same hardware. So, the Silverado EV is going to be probably not great, in terms of efficiency compared to the F-150. Yes,
Yeah.
it will have more range. It does have a longer bed, but it has a lot less payload capability, at least in the first versions they're launching. The work truck only has a payload of 1,300 pounds versus 2,000 pounds for the F-150 Pro, the Lightning Pro. So, I think for depending on your application, for some people that might not be enough.
Well, it also has a mid-gate, so,
That's
you
true.
got that. I don't know why I'm excited about the mid-gate.
You can put really long stuff
He's
in
like,
there,
wait,
as long as
there's
it's not
more.
too heavy.
I like the idea of the mid-gate for the dogs. The dogs can walk in. We're in the bed. We're
Okay.
in the car.
Okay.
We're in the bed. We're in the car.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Hey everybody, it's Sam. During the recent 2022 Chicago Auto Show, I had a chance to sit down with Nicole Kraatz. She is the chief engineer for the 2024 Chevrolet Silverado EV that's coming to market about a year from now. Talk about some things about that truck, like how much it weighs, the range, some of the decisions that were made for that vehicle. Enjoy. So, Nichole Kraatz, you're chief engineer on the Silverado EV. Have you been involved on the program from the very beginning of it?
I have.
So, I'd like to dive in a little bit into the origins and kind of the thinking around this vehicle.
Sure.
You guys have obviously taken a little bit different approach from your competitors down the aisle here.
They shall remain nameless.
Yeah, building it up from the ground up, around the Ultium system.
Yep.
What was some of the thinking around the decision making with, particularly with going with this type of body style versus more traditional separate cab and bed and things like that?
So this is really about bringing efficiencies to the EV opportunities. It's we wanted a traditional looking, not a traditional looking pickup truck. We wanted a Chevrolet that had some cues from its Chevrolet counterpart, but also something that said that it was electric going down the road. Now, we could have done a body-on-frame architecture, but we know that EV adoption is going to be, especially in these early years, all about range. And we can't get, as you're seeing with those competitors that have chosen body-on-frame, you can't get 400 miles of range by going to a traditional body-on-frame architecture. You have to think differently, and you have to recreate how you're going to integrate the battery packs. So this Ultium architecture is really game-changing for the industry, for General Motors. It's really about creating a golden brick, a Lego, that has the battery pack as part of a structural pack, and that structure can be carried across multiple vehicles. So we were able to take that Ultium battery pack, create an all-new body. The structure from the Ultium pack is quite a bit of the structure like a frame rail would be. So it's not body frame integral where all of the structure is in the body alone. And it really allows us the opportunity to build on the scale that the Ultium offers. It allows us to repartition literally the front overhang, the front of dash, the cab. Everything is redesigned to be able to fit, number one, the battery packs in, and number two, get the aerodynamic performance that we want to be able to get 400 or even more miles of range.
You've got a considerably larger pack capacity with this one. I don't know if GM has officially said 200 kilowatt hours, but that's the estimate.
That's the rumor on the street.
And I think early on with the Hummer, that's what the discussion was. It was talked about that. Sure. You've got a similar footprint to the F-150 Lightning in terms of overall length, width, and so on. Where did you, what were you able to do by not having to stick with existing hard points? Where did you manage to pack in that extra capacity?
So the frame rails don't sit inboard of the rockers like on a traditional pickup truck. The battery structure is literally as wide as just inside of the rockers, which allows you to pack in batteries wider than a traditional body-on-frame pickup truck. So that's part of that Ultium structure. We've also been able to get like a 5'11" truck bed that the competitors aren't doing. And that's because we shortened the front overhang. We made the overall length of the truck the same, but we shortened the front overhang and changed the wheelbase a little bit and moved some things around inside the truck to be able to get that 5'11" bed. We also didn't trade off passenger size, so there's still a 6-foot customer
you kind of
that can
shifted
sit.
the cab forward.
Yeah, you kind of shift the cab forward. Exactly. You can't do that if you use the traditional body-on-frame pickup. So it's all about the pack size. We've got the Ultium structure, which carries, the 24 module battery packs are 2 levels of battery cells on top of each other. It's a very awesome opportunity to scale our EVs that we're bringing into the segment and be able to build upon that architecture.
And obviously, in addition to having a longer base bed, I guess how much of that extra length, that extra, I guess about 5 or 6 inches of the bed length, came from the fact that by using this unified architecture for the upper body, not having to have that gap between the cab and the bed, how much were you able to gain there from that?
Yeah, so the gap between the truck and the pickup bed and the cab is a pretty good amount of inches when you work on the gap that you need between the cab and the bed, as well as just the metal structure itself between the two. So it's a couple inches. I mean, I'm not going to say the exact numbers here and there. We've also put the customer forward closer to the front wheels than we have in a traditional vehicle. So we've gained some inches there as well. And then shorten the front overhang, gets that overall length to still be the same.
And of course, that also gave you the opportunity, by making that decision, to bring back the midgate, which was a unique feature of the Avalanche and the Cadillac, the Escalade EXT, I think it was, whatever. Was that something that the ability to add the midgate was that something that drove some of that decision making for the unified structure, or was that just a happy benefit of going that direction?
Yeah, so we didn't set our sights on an Avalanche, and we didn't set our sights on a midgate when we started.
Okay.
We were designing a traditional cab, and we started talking about our compass was 400 miles of range or more, and cargo carrying flexibility. And when we started to look at our design and what we had come up with, we weren't as versatile as we wanted to be in terms of what an EV can offer. And so we stepped back and started going through, should we design a little pass-through? Well, let's not do that. Let's do something bigger. It's a pickup truck. It should be capable of something bigger than a small pass-through. Okay, well, let's just flip down the back for 100% kind of pass-through. We had talked about the fact that it would be really helpful to have a passenger in the back seat. So that idea evolved. It didn't come from let's go do the Avalanche and let's go redo it and just make it better. It really evolved from when we sat back and looked at it at one point in the design process. We said this is not giving the customers the versatility that we want, and the appeal of moving to the EV segment needs to be high range and something different than what they get today from their full-size pickup.
Okay. The performance. Well, I guess before I get to that, one of the issues with the Hummer is it's very heavy, and it sounds like this one is going to be heavier than the Lightning. I know you're not ready to talk about that weight, but do you see that as a potential problem?
I wouldn't say that the Hummer's weight is a problem, and I don't think we will have a problem either. I mean, the reality is that cell technology is constantly evolving. The weight of the trucks are based on how many cells of packs of batteries that you could put into the truck. So if someone's going to put 24, module batteries, they're all different cell chemistry. But, the people that you're referencing that are lighter because they're lower range. Mm-hmm. I can give you a lighter truck that's got 300 or 280 miles of range, and will be competitive, will be equals. Okay. So I don't think it's about.
But you also have less payload than the F-150 does.
But again, it's because we're trading off how many miles of range. So tit for tat, if you want to, you will see from us more models becoming available, and you'll see that we're extremely competitive for payload. You're seeing sort of one view right now of a fully loaded truck, so it's a little hard for me to talk about the total range of the payload capability. But what I will assure you is that the truck is very efficiently designed from a mass perspective. As the module packs drop, we still offer great range that will still outperform our competitors for let's just say a similar capability, similar price points, things like that. And we'll have trucks that'll have better payload than our customers. And those will show up when you see more of what you hear now, and this is standard in the full-size truck industry, whether we talk EVs or ICE. You hear payload numbers of usually base vehicles, and then as you add options, your payload goes down, but people don't advertise those numbers. We've come out with the RST fully loaded truck as our one and only truck, so you're hearing one data point. As you see more of those models coming out, you're going to see improved payload numbers like people would expect, and it's going to be a very similar setup to what you see in full-size trucks today. It's nothing uncompetitive about what we're doing.
Okay. One of the things that I think is really interesting about the EV market right now is we're starting to see a lot of emphasis on the commercial customers for EVs, and you're launching the Silverado with the work truck first, several months before the RST comes out. Was that decision, was that driven by demand from that customer base, from your fleet customers? Were they asking for something like this, or is it more that you thought that this might be a benefit to them, and they thought, they looked at it, what you were offering, and said, yeah, let's do that? What drove that?
I think there's a couple of things. So first of all, ESG and sustainability, investors that are investing in these fleet companies are asking the fleet companies to become more sustainable, and so they're seeking out partnerships with people like us to help them sort of achieve their ESG goals and sustainability goals. So most certainly we want to offer that opportunity to them. I think the second thing is that EV adoption is not just about putting retail vehicles out on the road, but it's also about people seeing utility companies, fleet companies, enterprise, those kind of people that we've talked about. It's about seeing them show that an EV pickup truck is a solution. It can become normalized, and so it can do the job, and it's capable. So without having to just have word of mouth through retail customers, you're also visibly seeing that fleets are embracing a utility going out to fix a pole in an EV Silverado is the same as a utility going out and fixing a pole in a Silverado ice truck. And so there's definitely multiple facets to wanting to do more with our fleet markets.
Yeah, and I'm really encouraged to see this adoption because, as you well know as an engineer, to actually address, bringing electrification to this kind of market actually has a really big impact. Taking a 35 or 40 mile per gallon car and hybridizing or electrifying it helps, but it's not nearly as big an impact for each vehicle as taking a truck that might be getting 12, 13, 14 miles per gallon, doing work every day and replacing it with an EV. That has a huge impact on fuel consumption, emissions, operating costs for the user.
Absolutely.
And so it's great to see that this is something that's finally starting to come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people excited about it, and our fleet customers were hand raisers very early on asking us to be part of this. They came in and we talked with them about the features and functions that they needed out of an EV pickup truck, and so this partnership with them has been quite a good thing for everybody to really build that zero emissions future.
One last thing related to that.
Yeah.
Was there any thought to, since you're launching the work truck first, to also offering a lower range version of it for those customers? Because a lot of those users don't necessarily need 400 miles of range.
Yeah, so our actual original strategy was to have a lower battery pack for them. We thought that's what they wanted. And when we brought in the customers and started talking to them, they actually asked for the 400-mile range pack for two reasons. Some of them actually are going to use higher range vehicles to go to different job sites. And then others were asking for off-board power capability for their job sites.
Have that extra capacity.
So they're taking, maybe they run 200 miles in their day, but they also need to run tools and lights and other things at their job site. So we actually listened to the customers and offered that 24-mod 400-mile range pack first. The flexibility of the Ultium architecture allows us to plug and play different mileage, different battery pack sizes to the customer's needs. And so the reservations that are available now, we've sold out the first work trucks, we've sold out the first RSTs. Now people can go onto the website and put in a reservation for an order for a vehicle. There'll be more models and more configurations becoming available by the time those people, sort of their place in line becomes available. And so there'll be different offerings, and you'll see more of that flexibility and capability as we approach more of those type orders.
Great. Anything else on the Silverado EV or what Chevrolet is working on with electrification that you want to bring up before we wrap it up?
I think it's just about being smart and providing compelling vehicles to bring people in to consider an EV vehicle, and in my particular case, an EV pickup truck. We don't want to offer a cookie cutter approach with something people are used to seeing and have the same capability as what we have in our Silverado today. We really work to make it the same and offer something new and compelling that an EV can really offer. And I'm really excited. The feedback so far has been really great, and I think we're offering a really compelling vehicle to our customers.
All right. Well, congratulations, and thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Next up. Turns out that in January, if you've been shopping for a new car recently, you've probably noticed that they're kind of expensive if you can find anything on the lot at all. According to the Drive, 80% of new car buyers in January in the U.S. paid over sticker for their cars, which is, that is something we have not seen before. I mean, in the past, it used to be you would go into a dealer and you would haggle over the price, and you'd usually drive away. More often than not, you'd drive away, for something under sticker, somewhere between the invoice price and the sticker on a new car. And oftentimes there were, various kinds of rebates and other deals, and that ain't happening anymore. It says the average new car buyer spent $728 over MSRP in January in the U.S. And I think the average transaction prices are up to about $42,000 or $43,000 now in the U.S.
What's interesting though, this talks about it's not the same. Like, although the average was 728, buyers shopping for a Cadillac paid an average of $4,000 over MSRP to take home a Cadillac.
Yep.
An extra $4,000 to have a Cadillac.
Land Rover was $2,565 over MSRP. Let's see.
Kia was $2,289.
Yeah.
A Kia. My gosh. Like, that's, not that there's anything wrong with Kia, but it's just like, here we have this luxury brand like Land Rover, 25, Kia, 22. That's like as in demand as Land Rover? I don't know.
And only 6 brands had their average transaction prices be lower than MSRP in January. Mini, BMW, Ram, Lincoln, Volvo, and Alfa Romeo. So if you're looking for a car right now, that's where you can get your best deals.
So you can get the best deals.
On an Alfa, Volvo,
So basically,
Lincoln, Ram,
you want to buy an
BMW.
Alfa Romeo because it says an Alfa was the only manufacturer survey that had 4-digit average discounts.
Ooh. You can get a Julia, huh?
I know. I want a Julia so bad. I can't even tell you. Like, that's what I'm going to do after the podcast. I'm going to go buy a Julia.
You can buy a Julia for super cheap. You can
cheap.
You can buy a super cheap Julia or a crazy expensive Bronco.
Cadillac. Yeah.
Or Cadillac.
Cadillac, yeah. Which would you pick? I would pick the super cheap Julia.
Oh, yeah. I would totally get the Julia.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Last one we've got is one that you found, Nicole.
Yeah,
tell us about this.
I thought this was just kind of fun. So last weekend, we had the Super Bowl happen, and everyone's all excited about the Super Bowl. I don't know who won or who played or anything. I just know I didn't have to listen to Tom Brady. I didn't have to listen to Tom Brady anymore.
Are none of us football fans?
No, I'm not a football fan.
My wife had to tell me who was playing, and then when she said the Rams, I'm like, oh, the St. Louis Rams. She's like, no, they're in LA. I'm like, no, that's before.
I think it says. Wait, now I'm trying to remember. It was the Rams, and it was I don't even remember. I remember it was the Rams. Bengals. Okay.
Yeah.
So regardless of the sports ball part of the sports ball, so everybody knows they pay a small fortune to advertise. Like, I watch games like that because the commercials, and the automakers do some really cool commercials. But they also, this is just sort of neat. Like, does anyone get any bang for their buck for all that auto advertising? This was actually about the halftime show. And if anybody saw the crazy halftime show, there were all these lowriders. These Chevy Impala lowriders were part of the show in the halftime show, bouncing along. And eBay Motors was putting up that after that, they had a 160% surge in searches for Chevy Impala lowriders, just from having it there, for not even doing like an official commercial for it. It's just like, oh, they were part of the halftime show. I thought that was kind of amazing. And all these things, like to get suspension kits for your lowrider suspension kits and taillight kits and rims. So like, you don't even have to advertise. You just put your car on the sidelines there somewhere. Just get it into the halftime show. Poof. So, because of the average ad at the show, do you know how much it costs to do an ad at the Super Bowl?
Isn't it like $6.5 million now? Or is it
The
4.5
highest
million?
ones this year were $7 million. The average cost is $6.5 million. $6.5 million.
Wow.
So I don't know what you would get back for your 30-second ad spot, but if you managed to get your cars put into the halftime show and you were trying to sell Chevy Impala lowriders, 160% increase in searches just because it was in the Super Bowl halftime show.
People are rolling in their 6.4. Down, down, down.
Did they have any stats on some of the actual ads in terms of the impact it has on searches?
No, this one just.
I'm thinking specifically of the GM ad with Dr. Evil.
With Dr. Evil? No, this didn't have that. This was specifically just about how the Impalas did as a result of the halftime show. So I don't have the figures on the other. You have to Google and get more stuff, Sam. We can put that on next week's. But I just thought that was kind of impressive. Like, it wasn't even an official ad. It was sort of like, background stuff at the halftime show. Still, huge number of searches. So you see how all those random things that are placed that you don't think they're advertising for something, but they are. Whew, they got some payback on that one.
It was a fun Gen X hip hop halftime show.
It was.
I didn't watch the game. I watched it on YouTube. They put the halftime show on YouTube. So I'm like, yeah, it's Trey.
I like the next day in the morning, it was like, oh, the halftime show. I'm like, okay, fine, YouTube. I'll watch it. I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
It was nice. And then I was all excited. I'm like, oh, you think? Imagine Kendrick Lamar must be so excited, like up there with his heroes. But anyway, I got all excited. Yeah, rolling you 6.4. Down. That's as much as I can do.
That's all you got. That's pretty good.
Well, I don't think we can do. We're allowed to do any more than that without having to pay license.
Without having to pay $9 bazillion. Well, having to pay $6.5 million to $7 million
in licensing.
Okay. Let's answer some questions from the listeners. First one from @Bastion7211. He says, I'm not Brianna Wu. Brianna happens to own 4 Porsches, including an air-cooled Targa. But
Hero.
I have a question about a Porsche. Is it too late to get an air-cooled Porsche? I'm talking whale tail, no AC, feeling the road through the steering wheel, and manual transmission, bare bones excitement. I can't afford $100,000 for what would be a weekend car. Well, as long as you can deal with the whale tail without the turbo. I did a little looking around on Haggerty on their valuation tool. 1980s air-cooled 911s are typically going for somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 for the non-turbos. If you want the whale tail and the turbo, you're definitely going to be paying over $100,000. So they're not cheap, but they're not. They're expensive, but they're not stupid expensive just yet.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I like to think that at some point in the next, after the next 2-3 years, prices of a lot of these vehicles are going to go down. I think we're in a everything is inflated as far as I'm concerned when it comes to cars. New cars, used cars, old cars, everything. It's all too much money. It's everyone's throwing
everything's so expensive right now.
Everything went, and people are paying $100,000 for 90 Honda Civics. I'm like, slow down, everyone. Slow down.
So you're saying there is a bubble in the used car market?
I believe that there is a bubble in the used car market.
That's a bold claim, Robbie. I don't know.
But we'll I know.
Bold claim.
$100,000 Integra Type Rs.
That's totally reasonable.
Oh my gosh. So if you can wait, but of course there's also the sort of, if you wait, maybe it'll just keep going up because there'll be fewer of them on the road. I don't know. It's good luck.
I think there were enough 911s built. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah,
and they've been built for a long time.
Yeah, they all have a thin layer. All the ones from the 80s also all have a thin layer of cocaine on the interior, so you get that.
Right.
Going.
Yeah. These a little bonus, or I guess depending on your point of view.
Yeah.
So be patient. Give it a couple more years till the bubble bursts, and then pick one up for 10 or 15
Then try and get one.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah.
All right. Wubbles asks, have Tesla drivers become the BMW drivers of the 21st century, a.k.a. the biggest a-holes on the road?
I don't know. I still think BMW drivers are pretty much a-holes here in New England. Maybe I just don't see enough Teslas here. I vote for the BMW drivers.
So someone who rode motorcycle and scooters around San Francisco, like you start sort of seeing like because you have to be hyper aware when you ride anything on two wheels. And so German gentlemen, well, I wouldn't even call them gentlemen, older dudes in German sports sedans were pretty bad, but they were not as bad as Uber and Lyft drivers, because they're just like, I don't know where I'm going, I gotta go left. Or contractors and white F-150s, because a contractor in an F-150 gives 0 Fs about what's going on. They're just like, I don't care. Tesla drivers, though, started getting like very. Here, 2 days ago, I was driving, I don't know, something, and I looked over, and the man in the Model S took both his hands off the wheel to grab his phone with both hands to text while we were driving down the freeway. And I was like, I'm going to slow down and get over a lane.
Give him some room.
Give him some room. So I think that Tesla drivers are becoming I think we.
I would split it up. I hate to overgeneralize. I would say that.
But you will.
I will mildly generalize. I would say that there's at least 2 categories of Tesla drivers. Because there's a lot more Teslas on the road today than there were a few years ago. I think and I know some people that own Teslas, and they're not all like this. I would say that there's kind of 2 categories of Tesla drivers. There are those who just bought a Tesla because they were looking for a nice electric car. That looked decent, had some decent performance, wasn't stupid expensive, and they bought a Model 3 or a Model Y, and then there's the Tesla fans, and most of these people own stock in Tesla, and they tweet a lot in response to everything that Elon says, and if you say anything remotely negative about Tesla, they will swarm you on Twitter or wherever else, and I think those are the one. And a lot, I think probably a larger percentage of those type of Tesla owners happen to live in the Bay Area, so I think that those are the ones, and they're the ones that get they're the ones that get your attention. The other people that are just driving around doing
just
their thing,
cruising, living life like a regular person.
Yeah, it's the squeaky wheel gets the attention.
Yeah,
this is true.
So I think there's these kind of 2 categories of Tesla owners, and the ones in that latter category, the real fans, the hardcore fans, I think they are probably worse than the worst of the BMW drivers, especially if they have access to the FSD beta. But the rest of them, they're just average people just driving around, using the Model 3 as what it is, which is the 21st century Camry. It's the Camry of Silicon Valley now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
All right. Andrew Pappas asks, I have a family on both coasts, so driving across the U.S. was not an uncommon vacation growing up. I want to drive some of the roads in Europe, especially the Alpine passes. What's the furthest that you've ever driven, and what's your dream road trip?
The furthest I've ever driven, like in one fell swoop, like
on a road trip.
You've done at least one transcontinental drive.
Probably across the U.S. is the furthest I've ever driven. I don't know that I've done anything longer than that. I don't think. What about you guys?
It's pretty. I mean, it's a pretty big country. I've driven from California to Pennsylvania, and I've driven from California to what's that state called? Kansas.
What's another state?
I've driven from New York to Denver via D.C. and Cleveland, Chicago, Memphis, and Dallas and Amarillo. I think that's definitely the longest.
That's a Johnny Cash song.
Actually, we did go to the rodeo while we were in Amarillo. So
yeah,
as one must.
That was interesting seeing a bunch of German engineers in big Stetsons.
Oh, brand new Stetsons, not sticking out like a sore thumb at all.
Not at all.
Stetsons and lederhosen. Now, there's a combination for you.
Dun, 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 dun.
But no, I think that's definitely the longest road trip I've taken, and I've driven like from Michigan to South Carolina and Georgia a couple of times.
Yeah.
So those would be the longest. What about your dream road trip?
My dream road trip. I mean, we're probably in Europe. I really want to go through the Stelvio Pass in Italy. I just saw something about that once, and somehow it got my attention. So I want to drive a road trip that has that in there somewhere. Yeah, I think that's what comes to mind just off the top of my head. And I think there's probably a million places in Europe that I could drive that would be amazing.
Yeah, I think driving across Europe. I've driven the Swiss Alps, which was outstanding. I've driven around Bavaria a bunch and into Austria, which is really pretty. But yeah, Italy, I'd like to drive in Italy.
Did you drive that? You said did you drive in Norway at all? You ever been to Norway?
I've driven in Norway. So
I've
driven in Sweden.
Norway down to Italy. I think that would be a fun drive.
Did you do the Trollstigen? Have you ever heard of this road, Trollstigen?
No, I don't think so.
I'm not just like making it up because it's called something else. Like really called Trollstigen, and it's this really twisty, turny mountain pass. Like there's points where you can't both go around the quarter. You pick who goes around the quarter, and then the other person goes around the corner. No, I definitely did not.
I was driving like an EQC. I was driving the SUV that Mercedes was going to bring to the United States, and then they didn't.
Well, if you're in Norway, there's this highway called the Trollstigen that is this beautiful
go up back and forth through the fjords.
It goes. It's not so much it goes. You kind of go up and then you come back down it like through this. But it's just the view once you get up there. First of all, this little we have little cheesy little rest areas in the United States. This looks like something out of Falling Water when you get up there. It's like beautiful, like watery area that you walk through. You can climb up farther if you want. It's beautiful. It's one of my favorite roads that I've ever driven. And they have an ice cream stand with a troll on top because why not? You have to have that. But yeah, the Trollstigen in Norway, which is absolutely beautiful. So if you're ever there and you see that, go drive that road if you like to drive roads. So
the Trollstigen down to the tip of Italy. I think
there we go. That would work. That would work for me. Yes.
I've driven from Arvidsjaur or from Hethel in England, which is on the east what do you call it? The eastern part of England, to Sweden, to Arvidsjaur, Sweden, which is up near the Arctic Circle.
That's cool.
And then driven back to Birmingham at the end of a winter. So that was an interesting trip, driving all the way up through Sweden along the eastern coast, along the Baltic Sea. I think it's the Baltic.
Geography.
That was a gorgeous drive. And I've driven, in the Black Forest and the Autobahn. But I think, definitely doing more driving in Europe would be awesome. I'd definitely like to do the Stelvio Pass and assorted other places.
Yes.
So you go, drive across Europe. Go get one of those BMW delivery things where you can pick up your BMW in Germany.
There you go.
And then just drive around Europe for a while. I once tried to drive. I was in Barcelona and I was going to drive over to Italy to visit my friend who lives over there. And absolutely everyone was like, don't do that because you're going to have to drive through France. And I was like, why?
Oh, God, France.
They're like, don't do it. And
what's your least favorite country to drive through? Do you have one where you feel like there's no rules? I have one where I feel like there's, and I said I wanted to drive there, but.
Greece, there are rules in Greece, but no one follows them. I
guess they all have rules. It's just how likely are they to follow them.
But it was nice driving through Greece, but rules are just sort of like nice suggestions in Greece.
Yeah.
One of the coolest drives I ever did that done it a couple different times is in Arizona from the Roosevelt Dam. There's a road that goes down from the dam along the canyon, along the river, the Salt River, that is, at least when I did it, I don't know if it's still unpaved. It was unpaved at the time, but it winds back and forth, kind of the kind of thing you described, Nicole, in Norway, winding back and forth. And this was one that we used when I was still working for GM, when I was working on the Elan, and we were doing our summer testing in Arizona. We would sometimes drive up to the dam and then drive back along this road that goes from the dam down to Apache Junction, and it's wouldn't say quite terrifying, but it definitely takes a lot of attention. Otherwise, you could end up falling a very long distance down to the water.
To your doom.
Yes.
I'd be curious what any listeners who feel like tweeting us or telling us or emailing us what their favorite place in the U.S., if they have a road that they love or a section of highway that they love to drive in the U.S. That would be kind of neat.
Tweet at us.
Tweet at us.
I will say, driving in South Korea, the speed limits are very low, and there's a lot of just random speed bumps. So that's South Korea.
For no particular reason, like speed bump here, speed bump there.
Yeah, the speed limits are very low. I was in the mountains driving. The speed limit was 30 kilometers an hour, which is 18 miles an hour.
Wow, that is
on a road with no houses around, down a hill with switchbacks. And I was like, no, I'm not doing 18 miles.
No.
Well, that for what it's worth, I mean, that speed limit may have been set back in the days when that's probably about as fast as you would want to drive on a road like that in a Korean car. I mean, Korean cars have come a long way, but again, at the beginning of my career, along with that Lotus, I also did some work on a Daewoo program that that was a frightening car. And I never drove that one on the street. I was just driving on the track.
In a car with air quotes.
Yes.
Car, yeah.
Well,
car.
it had 4 doors, 4 wheels, an engine.
Car, mostly.
But it almost had some brakes.
Brake-like things.
Goop to AJ asks us, this actually goes back to the topic we had earlier, about the AutoNation CEO saying on their earnings call that transactions at full MSRP are here to stay. Is this wishful thinking, or the manufacturer stumbled upon some secret sauce? If I'm paying sticker price, would the dealership model even be necessary? I think it probably is here to stay, because, unless we get into a situation again where because we've got so many new entrants coming in with all these EV startups, if everybody starts overbuilding and flooding the market with too much supply, I think one of the things we've seen from manufacturers during over the past year, especially with the chip shortage, is they're increasingly encouraging customers to factory order their cars. Usually the model in the U.S. has been, you go into the dealership and you buy something off the lot and you drive away that same day, which is part of the reason why we have so many gray and silver and white and black cars, because they're easier to sell. It's easier to have somebody just drive away with one of those. The bold colors are a little bit tougher. With so little supply, and I've told people that I've talked to, that said they're looking to buy a new car and were wondering what to buy. I said, whatever you decide on, go into decide early. Go into the dealer, place an order, so you can get exactly what you want. Because otherwise, for a while now, you're going to have a hard time finding what you want on a dealer lot. And if you're doing that, if they're keeping inventories low and not overbuilding, then we probably will, be selling cars with little or no discounts going for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
Hopefully, and they don't make as much money on the EVs as they do on the gas vehicles. The sort of gravy train of the big truck that just they build it for $10 and they sell it for $100 is kind of coming to an end, and so they have to make their money somewhere. So
yeah, I don't think it's going to be forever. I think it'll stick around for a while, though. I think it's going to still take some time for everything to get to some kind of leveling where we aren't so short on vehicles, and that if they start producing and overproduce, that we aren't I just think it's going to take a little time for things to even out.
Soon, in a couple of years, we'll have those factory rebates of $10,000 on a brand new, commercials.
Except for, what is it? There's some vehicle that's going to be in demand for. What's the giant ship that's on fire somewhere? Isn't there some giant?
Porsches and the Volkswagen.
Porsches and Volkswagen.
VWs, so Audis, and some Bentleys, too.
So if you're looking for those, can you imagine a Bentley? It's not like there's bazillions of Bentleys coming in. Imagine your Bentley's on order. You've been waiting forever. Like, we have an update for you.
Fire.
Yeah, we're going to have to build it again.
It could take a little time.
Sorry about your expensive car.
Yeah.
I guess if you have a story, it's my car burned down at sea.
Yeah, this is my second try getting it. The first one
burned and sunk in the middle of the Atlantic.
Yeah.
And then the other part of the question was, would the dealership model even be necessary? I think that we will continue to have dealerships, as a place to, take delivery of cars, get them serviced. But what you'll probably see going forward is dealers will probably reduce their physical footprint. They won't have such huge lots full of cars. Like there's a Ford dealer here in Ann Arbor that, prior to the chip shortage, they typically had like 1,300 cars in stock on their lot at any time. And there was a story in Car and Driver last summer that they had, I think at the time they had like 30 or 40 cars on the lot. And I remember driving past there a few days before that story was posted, and it was looking over and seeing, it's like, wow, there's like nothing there.
Wow.
All right. Next, Bryn Berenshausen asks, how has Mary Barra survived in her role? They've so dropped the ball on electrification. They've let the Bolt get too old before an update. They have a new platform that's taking forever to come to market. Have this monstrosity that gives EVs a bad name, referring to the Hummer. What do you think about Mary Barra and the way she's run GM?
God.
I think so Ultium, I think, is a good move. There's a lot of things that GM has done well. I think Ultium, like being out with Ultium before almost everyone else, was great. But the sort of like just taking forever to put anything on that platform. And the Hummer EV is really just a halo thing to like get people to look at them. It's really, when you look at the Lyriq and some other vehicles are going to be coming out. The Bolt took too long to update, and it's still the same. It's not on Ultium. Like when we updated the Bolt, it's still on the old platform. It still only gets 50 kilowatt charge, and you're like, what is happening? So I think they're just being sort of, we're all about the future, but they're also being very conservative about sort of introducing vehicles, and I think they're being too conservative when you look at what other automakers are doing, just like sort of going all in as quickly as possible. Because the Bolt beat the Model 3 to market, and yet we still don't have anything besides that from them on. Well, I mean, I guess they have delivered like a couple giant.
They've delivered a few Hummers.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. Like, is it really rushing to market if you haven't figured out if you haven't figured things out yet, like in a way that you feel like what you're bringing to market is really going to work? Is it better to rush it if for whatever reason it's taking them more time? Or is it better to just say, okay, well, we're just going to have to be a little bit behind the curve here and come out with something that when it comes out is going to knock the socks off of everything else? Like, are we just, maybe we're going to be overly impressed when they do get their acting gear with some of this future promise stuff. And I do think that the Hummer is they're saying it's a brand. So, not even like, but I think the Hummer brand, it's a halo car to make you say, oh, wow, look at this. This is cool. GM's doing this. They brought it back and it's cooler than ever because it's electric and it's the future. Oh, what are they building that I can actually afford? Yeah.
I think, we're kind of in this, say, uncanny valley kind of mode right now, where GM's promised all these EVs. They haven't actually built them yet. There's a whole bunch of stuff that is suddenly going to drop over the next 18 months. And if you ask me this, overall, I think Mary Barra has actually done a really good job running GM. And GM made a different strategic decision than Ford did in terms of how they were going to go into EVs. They spent a lot of time developing all the underlying hardware, the batteries, the platform, the motors, everything else. And they've actually done some really good stuff that, is just starting to come to market now. I think Ford took a little bit different strategy. They developed one platform for the Mach-E, and they decided to adapt existing vehicles with the E-Transit and the F-150 to get them to market quicker. Long term, which is going to be the better strategy? I don't know. I think it's too early to tell. I think when the Silverado does arrive, especially with the smaller battery, more standard range versions, I think it probably will have superior performance to what Ford can get out of the F-150. but the F-150 is going to have, an 18-month head start, almost 2-year head start on when those variations of the Silverado get to market. And, Ford is already working on the next generation, which is following more the path that GM took with the other one. So, that next generation Lightning is not going to be that far behind when, the Silverados arrive in force. I think, GM has, as a business overall, has done very well. It's been very profitable under Mary Barra's leadership. They've done a lot of the foundational work that's going to be necessary for success. And now they just have to deliver those products. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people are getting frustrated at the lack of those products being in the marketplace. Yeah. If they do what they've promised and have cars like the Equinox EV and the Blazer EV, out in the market, in 2023, and the Lyriq does well, and some of these other vehicles that they've shown us, they just teased out first image of the headlights of a Buick electric crossover that's coming out that's supposed to be shown this summer. So there's a lot of interesting stuff coming. It just and it's all going to drop like seemingly all at once over the next 18 months.
You wonder if all of a sudden there's just going to be this like boom, everything comes from them all at once, and we'll see whether that strategy was a better strategy or a worse strategy. And I don't think we really know. I mean, I don't think
they showed off an Equinox that everyone's excited about. No one's ever been excited about the Equinox.
Right?
Yeah.
Ever.
Right?
No one's
That's
ever
something
said,
right there.
Yeah,
It's like there's
Equinox.
excitement around the Equinox. I'm sorry, what now?
What? So I think I mean, when you look at, I think BMW was sort of in the thing where they had the i3 and the i8, and then nothing forever, and they're like, we're working on it, and we were like, what are you doing? Why is it taking so long? And then I got into the i4 and the iX, and I was like, my God, these are amazing. Mm-hmm. And so they took their time to create like these really, really great EVs, and I'm hoping that's what GM is doing.
Yeah, if what they deliver is worth the wait, then it will have been worth it. If what they deliver is what other OEMs are delivering right now, then there's going to be some problems.
And, keep this in mind. Tesla was founded in 2003 by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, and nobody named Elon was around at the time. It took 9 years from then for the Model S to arrive, and then another 6 years, 2012, five years after that for the Model 3. So you're talking 14 years from from when they started until the Model 3, which was their first really volume vehicle. So, give GM a break. Give Mary a break.
Yeah, I mean, I've expressed frustration at GM, like, come on, but they're also they're teaming up with Honda. I mean, if you should really be upset, it's like, what the hell's going on in Japan?
Yeah, that's true. All right. Bryn also asked. He tweeted out. He retweeted a picture that somebody else posted. That it was somebody standing in front of a GMC Yukon. Actually, I think that's actually a Sierra HD. It's not a Yukon. And for reference, I'll include the picture in the show notes, the tweet in the show notes. The person standing in front of this truck is 6'1", and the top of the hood is nearly up to his shoulders. Bryn said, I consider these vehicles just as, if not more dangerous than Tesla's running beta FSD. The front end of basically every pickup and SUV is now designed to be a pedestrian splatter zone. And, I think he's right. This is a real problem. As vehicles have become larger and taller, they are a huge risk to pedestrians.
They've essentially built billboards. They're billboards for brands. And instead of having like a nice slope, which you could totally have, there are these right angles. So because of the right angle, the hood is straight and then it drops off at a right angle. You don't have that sort of slope where you can see what's in front of you. Whenever I have to drive a big truck, I'm always like, well, I hope, how far am I from the car in front of me? 3 feet? 12 feet? Who knows? I can't see the car anymore.
Yeah, I'm perpetually too far away from everything when I park those because I'm so afraid I leave more space than I need to. It's like, I could have pulled forward another 5 feet, but you can't see that. You have no idea how close you are to things. It really is hard to figure out.
And, over the last 6, 7, 8 years, when we have seen an increase in traffic fatalities, despite all the additional safety equipment we're putting on vehicles, if you look at the numbers in the fatal accident reporting system that NHTSA has, turns out that almost all of the increase was to pedestrians and cyclists. The number of people, vehicle occupants that have died in crashes
has
gone down, but the number of pedestrians and cyclists dying has gone up. And I think
Does that data break it down though by what kind of car, like pedestrian accidents involving trucks, pedestrian accidents involving a hatch?
Well, you can drill down into that data to find out what kind of vehicles. It's kind of hard to do.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was easy.
But I mean, if you look at the types of vehicles, the mix of vehicles we've got on the road, it corresponds, and obviously correlation is not causation, but it does correspond with a dramatic increase in the number of SUVs and trucks getting sold, versus cars. So, I think that clearly, you do not have as much visibility when you're driving these big trucks and SUVs as you do, driving in a car. I mean, I sit in my Miata, I have full 360-degree vision, from about 3 feet up, so it's a very different kind of experience, and definitely more people are getting hit and killed by these larger vehicles. So it really is a problem. One last one that we have that popped up while we've been recording is from Wes, WWP 2181. Do you wash your cars regularly, or do you let the rain do it for you?
Well, I live in California, so
no rain for you.
What's rain?
Yeah.
I wash my car regularly, even in the summer. I wash it once a week because in the summer it just gets covered with bug guts, and during the winter it gets covered with ice. And in the winter I always make sure I do an undercarriage wash because the salt and the salt and whatever the stuff, like, were places where you can't use salt and there's like a different chemical thing, like it's a chemical little cocktail they put on the roads, and even the dirt. Oh my gosh, it gets all over everything. I just feel like it just eats the car. So yeah, I wash my car pretty much once every week. It gets a good little scrubbing.
Yeah, I don't wash the Miata that regularly. Maybe once a month, because I don't drive it that much. But yeah, mostly when you're getting bugs and stuff like that splattered over the front of it. It does have a fairly small frontal area, so it's not that bad. And my wife's car, probably gets washed a little more regularly than that. But also, both of them get parked in the garage. We don't, our cars are not, the press cars are parked in the driveway, and our cars are parked in the garage. So they don't generally get too filthy. But yeah, we do wash them on a fairly regular basis.
We wash our cars every few weeks, so they get pretty filthy. But I have to wash a press car like every week for photo and video. So yeah. I will be washing a car, and right next to me will be my BRZ, and it's just a mess because we have a lot of pollen right now. So every day you go out, the cars all have a layer of pollen on them.
Yeah, we have a pollen season too. It comes right after mud season, then there's pollen season.
So yeah, I don't wash them as much as I probably should, but it's not. I think mostly because I'm like, well, I'm washing this other car,
Well, the people delivering the cars, they wash them before they bring them to me, and so what I do is I usually, within a few hours after it arrives, I will take it, even before I drive it, I'll take it and photograph it while it's still clean.
Yeah.
Or if it's going to rain, I'll go out and shoot it, before it rains. So I get that out of the way, and then if I'm going to do anything else with it, then I'll wash it again.
Yeah, but that's the smart adult thing to do. I'm neither smart nor an adult. I'm just a tall person, and I'll drive the cart around, and then I'll be like, oh, I gotta take pictures, and it'll. I've gotten up the other day. I had to get up at 6 a.m. to wash the car in the dark to take photos of it because I had not, even though I'd had it for a week. I had not taken pictures of it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, but I got some nice early morning pictures. But also, I could have done that. I could have done that any time, but I did it the day they were picking the car up.
All right. Well, that's all we've got for this week. Thanks everybody, and we will talk to you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.